using up all their carbohydrate root reserves, and we come in and mow them, and that stresses them out even more. We mow over 1,000 acres a year and have greatly reduced certain weed species on open space through mowing.
Controlled grazing with cattle or goats can also be an effective method. Goats in particular like to eat certain weeds. While they eat, their feet and their droppings condition the soil.
Usually the first day or prior to them getting into an area, we reseed with natural plant species. And with the interaction of the goat's feet on the seed, as well as our ability to get them eat a lot of the ground thatch, they'll have a better sprouting rate. So it actually promotes the reseeding and the regrowth of natural plant species.
The fundamental principle to bear in mind when tackling the weed issue is that weeds are largely a symptom of degraded soils. When land use strips the soil bare of native vegetation, the nutrients the natives need to thrive are eroded away. When we protect and rehabilitate the soil, we create conditions that favor the natives and deter the growth of weeds. When conditions are right, natives can be resown or replanted in damaged areas. Native flora can be restored so that weeds have less chance to prosper. Several techniques can be applied to give restoration its best chance.
After doing the manual control and releasing the beneficial weevils, we followed up with a reseeding program by putting native grasses and other forbs in here and mulching them. We're waiting for the rain to germinate this, and this will help outcompete the thistle and other weeds in here.
Mycorrhiza are naturally occurring fungi that fortify plants by helping them extract nutrients from the soil. When vegetation and topsoil are removed from a site, so are the mycorrhiza that support natives. When replanting natives, mycorrhiza can be reapplied to the soil in liquid or solid form, giving the plants the optimum chance to reestablish themselves and outcompete weeds. When soils are laid bare, they lose minerals that are important to the survival of natives. To restore soil health, a soil test should be done to determine which minerals can be applied to compensate for missing nutrients.
We're going to be mixing up some planters too, which is a mineral and trace element fertilizer. It has calcium, magnesium, sulfur, boron, cobalt, and iron. And in most of these disturbed areas, there's a deficiency in all of these minerals and micronutrients. And that's why the perennials have a difficult time getting established. So if you put the minerals in, you will make it an easier job for the perennials to come in and get established.
Cover cropping is the sowing of certain types of grain seed as a way of temporarily protecting and restoring the soil, as well as crowding out the weeds before natives are resown. In situations where herbicides appear to be the most appropriate method, there are several natural, less toxic herbicides available on the market. One of these is a high-strength vinegar.
This thistle was sprayed with the 300 grain vinegar several days ago. You can get an idea about what it does to the plant.
Of course, the best method of controlling invasive weeds is prevention. Information booths like this one at Roxborough State Park are alerting people to what they can do to help. We must reduce both the spread of weed seeds and the opportunities they have to take hold. After walking or driving in weedy areas, it's helpful to clean shoes, tires, and the feet of animals in order to keep the seeds from spreading. Local officials should be notified of any weed outbreaks found in natural areas. And once again, please be careful not to plant gardens with aggressive non-natives that tend to escape.
There are definitely alternatives to these invasive plants that won't have such a devastating effect on the ecosystems that people are living in. And also, I encourage people to consider planting native materials.
Developers and all property owners should be careful not to leave their land bare of vegetation. Weed outbreaks that occur on property should receive prompt attention before they spread to neighboring lots and become hard to manage.
To control weeds effectively, we need to work together as communities and neighbors. We've cut the thistles on one side of the road, and the property owner here has not cut them, and they've gone to seed, so they're going to blow on the other side of the road and spread and infest other areas. You can see this is a good example of where somebody built a berm and didn't properly revegetate it and allowed the weeds to come back in and cause this problem of spreading weeds throughout the community.
Invasive weeds that threaten the native environment are distinct from nuisance weeds that homeowners find distasteful, such as dandelions. We strongly encourage property owners to avoid using potentially harmful chemicals to control nuisance weeds.
Well, local landowners should be aware of what's growing on their landscape. This may begin with the suburban landowner, who really should realize, number one, that the toxic green lawn that seems to be advocated by certain commercial enterprises maybe isn't really the most desirable and healthy landscape that they want for their children and their dogs.
The alternatives for managing nuisance weeds are similar to those mentioned for invasives. That is, hand pulling, improving the soil, and using natural products. Other options available are mulching and solarizing. Weeds actually have many good uses, such as for food and medicine. The town of Carbondale, Colorado promotes these uses in its celebration of the dandelion.
I'm Lori Stone. I'm with the Carbondale Environmental Board, and about 3 years ago the Environmental Board started a festival called Dandelion Days, where we celebrate the dandelion. Dandelion is actually one of the most nutritious foods. The leaves can be used in salads, can be used in stir fries, can be used really in any recipe that calls for like spinach. It's got lots of calcium, iron, vitamin C. It's highly nutritious. We also educate people during the festival about how to improve their soil so that they don't get weeds in their soil, and alternatives to chemical spraying.
Local governments are beginning to address public concerns about the safety of herbicides. 2 towns on Colorado's western slope have adopted low and no spray policies. Robbie Darcy, town weed manager for Basalt, Colorado, tells of her initial reaction to her town's new no-spray policy.
I was a little nervous about having a no-spray policy because I have such a large area, and I just didn't, I don't like chemicals, and I have never liked chemicals, but I was nervous because I had not done enough investigating into other areas to know what was available to me.
And how do you feel about this policy now?
I like it. I think we've had really good success with not using chemicals. I sprayed 1 year, and I have had as good of success without chemicals as I ever had with chemicals. So I, of course, would rather not use the chemicals. This area 4 years ago was completely covered in plumeless thistle, and we have been able to eradicate it through mechanical just by cutting it. And then as there are stragglers left behind, we use a very high-strength vinegar that we come in and spray on it, and then that has been working very well for us. So as you can see, the area is no longer covered in thistle, and we've reclaimed it.
Steve Solomon tells us how and why this policy was adopted.
My town was in the process of annexing and improving a golf course on 300 acres of ranch land, and the applicant initially handed us a pesticide proposal, and this is right on top of our water table and right on our rivers. And I started to do a lot more work on the town's behalf, looking at these pesticides and informing people of their problems and what they would do. And so during the course of that